George Russell has now been at the center of attention for a long period of time, as Verstappen's links to Mercedes are putting George's seat in danger. The Brit is adamant that he and Mercedes are willing to work out a deal. But given the latest sacking of Horner, could Russell find himself in dangerous waters? And if so, what team would be the best fit, given the entire situation on the grid caused by Verstappen and Red Bull's downfall? The 2025 season is slowly but surely giving us extraordinary stories to talk about, with Christian Horner, of course, being sacked by Red Bull after 20 years with the team. There has been a growing belief that Verstappen will join Mercedes after he and Toto Wolff were spotted in Sardinia with their private jets. Of course, it could mean nothing, but why would they have talks in these very sensitive times when Wolff constantly said that as long as there is as little as a 1% chance to sign Verstappen, he'll go for it? And Russell knows this better than anyone else. So despite him being a race winner in 2025 and having totaled 6 wins as a Mercedes driver, it's not certain that he'll continue with the Brackley-based squad in the newly regulated era. Max Verstappen holds the cards, and as a 4-time world champion, he is definitely the most wanted asset on the grid. Whether we like it or not, it does put Russell in a situation where he needs to position himself in a different team. And as of now, the leading candidate to land him, if he becomes available, is Red Bull. It would make the most sense because, at the end of the day, it would be a simple driver swap between Russell and Verstappen. However, a lot of things have changed in terms of perspective because now Horner is no longer the team principal and CEO of Red Bull. So, if Horner had a plan to replace Verstappen with Russell, which was more or less proven with the talks that Christian and George had, if something out of their control happened between Verstappen and Mercedes, that might have fallen through. It's not like Russell won't be viewed as a top candidate to replace Verstappen from the new leadership of Red Bull, led by Laurent Mekies. But the narrative might be a bit different now that the current boss of the Austrian team is the former team principal of AlphaTauri. Instead of going with an outside hire to help them figure out the new regulations, Mekies' approach could be different. Promote 2 young guys like Lindblad and Hadjar and start the rebuild process from scratch. Compared to having Russell and 1 young driver, this might not be the best situation for Red Bull. But let's not forget that many criticize Mercedes for bringing Antonelli to the team so young and not allowing him to adapt properly in Williams. Nevertheless, Russell is one of the best drivers on the grid in both qualifying and race pace. So, if Red Bull turns out to have a great project underway and Max is out the door, then the seat might not be seen as that big of a downgrade. However, Russell needs to be extremely careful here. Red Bull is a team that saw tons of their technical experts depart, including Newey, Wheatley, and Fallows. It's not like Russell will take over Verstappen's seat and everything will remain the same. Quite the contrary. He is entering a team that will look massively different compared to their golden era in 2022, 2023, and 2024. But it will be a great challenge for George, too. He can prove to both Wolff and Mercedes that building him to this level and getting rid of him just because Verstappen is available is a pivotal mistake they'd pay for dearly. What needs to be talked about here is the factual situation in the Drivers' Championship. Russell is only 18 points behind Verstappen in the standings. And if he manages to overtake him before the summer break and put the Dutchman out of the top 3, then he would help activate Verstappen's exit clause. Paradoxically enough, it would put Russell out of the Mercedes seat. So, he might think twice before performing at the best possible level to prove to his team that they will be in the wrong to pursue Verstappen at this point in George's career. However, the departure of Horner is putting a different perspective on this entire situation. The Brit might have seen Russell as the best potential replacement for Verstappen, and now that might not be the case at all. Everything should be known in the next couple of weeks around the summer break, when Toto Wolff needs to pull the trigger. Will he put Verstappen next to Antonelli? And will Russell choose Red Bull as his next destination? So if it's not Red Bull, then what's next for Russell? Well, you can never count out Aston Martin, especially not after they've shown interest in George and have reportedly viewed him as the cornerstone of their 2026 project. The driver situation there is very complicated because while Alonso has a contract for the next season, he's very close to retirement and could be asked to move away prematurely to make space for Russell. On the other hand, I highly doubt Lance Stroll will be sacked by Aston Martin for all the logical reasons. His father owns the team, and the nepotistic factor is still as strong as the day Lawrence arrived in F1. A lineup of Russell and Stroll will definitely benefit George a lot, because we know for a fact that Lance is not a competitive driver. I don't want to throw shade at him, but he is very uninterested, doesn't really care about what's going on in the world of Formula One, and has shown little to no ambition to improve as a driver. Of course, all of this has been imposed by the comfort bubble that his father put him in, but that's the reality of Stroll's career. It could only mean good news for Russell, because if the project led by Newey turns out to be a success, he would benefit a lot from it. Of course, there's a change of engines, and he would have to get used to Honda, but I don't think this would be too big of a problem when you have top-notch facilities in Silverstone and the mastermind of Newey working behind closed doors. If we are to compare the potential that Aston Martin and Red Bull have regarding 2026, I think the better team would be the Silverstone-based squad. They will go with a proven engine manufacturer in Honda and a team composed of highly trained, skilled individuals like Newey